Hello, genealogists. This is Craig, and this is Just Genealogy. As you know, I went to South Carolina, had a great time in Fort Mill, like the York County Library. I may talk about them sometime, but I think I'd like to go back there and be there when I talk about them. They have lots of resources available for that area of South Carolina. But there were vendors there, and for 2 years I hadn't been inside a vendor hall, so it was happiness. And I got to see old friends like Brent Holcomb and LaBruce Lucas. Brent, I hope, if you know South Carolina research, and LaBruce if you know Southern Historical Press. But I also got to see people with the various state genealogical societies like North Carolina, Georgia, for example, that were there, and South Carolina, of course. Now, I don't have too much opportunity anymore to be with the Georgia Genealogical Society because I don't teach at IGHR very often anymore. But one of the books that I wanted to pick up that I've wanted to pick up for years from the Georgia Genealogical Society is Paul K. Graham's Georgia Land Lottery Research. Now, Georgia Land Lottery Research, according to him, is simple. According to me, until I got to his book, not so simple. I think I understand after going through his book what my problem was. So let's talk about the book for a little bit. Georgia is a unique place in that there was a problem with Georgia. There weren't enough people there to support a regiment. So Georgia got permission to recruit from South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and they went as far north as Maryland. You may find that your Marylander or your person from Virginia actually is serving in the Georgia Battalion of Foot, of which there were two, and they're officered by Georgians, but the enlisted people tend to be from outside of Georgia. So when it came time to do military bounty land in Georgia, they were accepting of all kinds of people coming to Georgia because they wanted more people. They used the military bounty land system and the lottery system in Georgia to entice people to move to Georgia. Well, because there were so many lotteries, it gets confusing. Some of them are military lotteries, some of them are not. Bachstruck, in his book on Revolutionary War bounty land, has a section on Georgia, which clears it up a little bit, but for me, just didn't clear it up enough. It gave me hints about what I should be looking for, but doesn't really tell me how to research the records. It just gives me some idea about what the rank of the individual might be based on the number of acres which they received. So I rely on Bachstruck for that. But Graham, I distribute a lot of Graham's books on Georgia, a couple of land lottery books, commissions, a few other things, which I may talk about at some point in the future. But this one he gave to the Georgia Genealogical Society for them to sell, and they do. And it's inexpensive as books go. And it has an explanation of the land lotteries, the land lottery surveys, research strategies, participants, fortunate drawers, grants, plat maps, and beyond the basics. And he talks about the 1805 and 1807 Georgia land lotteries, which he has authored books on, the 1820 Georgia land lottery, which I know Southern Historical Press has published, 1821, 1827, 1832, 1832 gold lottery, and that is published somewhere else too, and then an 1833 Georgia fractions lottery. Most of these have been published one way or t'other. Like, for example, I just happen to have on my desk the third or 1820 land lottery Georgia from Southern Historical Press that I picked up down in South Carolina. So I could sell you a copy of it if you wanted it. But what's important here, and there are lots of illustrations in this, lots of maps, a few plats. I mean, they basically tell you where the land lottery was, what the headright land was. This right here is the headright land over here, and this is the 1805 lottery there. So basically, 1807 moves a little bit farther west. Not this one, not that one, this one. No, that one. The 1807 moves a little bit farther west, and the 1820 takes up a lot of the state. Oh, I can never get this mirror image reverse stuff straight. Anyway, so he has maps for all the lotteries. He talks about the surveys, of course, and how they're broken out. And they're using a rectangular land survey almost kind of thing. And then he talks about district numbers and why they're important. And I haven't encountered that yet. But he has research strategies. And he divides his research strategies up. And I think this is what my problem was, is I was trying to have a one-size-fits-all research strategy for the Georgia land lotteries, all of them. And basically, he talks about researching land titles for grantees of a whole lot, then grantees of fractional lots, and then researching individuals as either fortunate drawers or participants or purchasers. And then he also talks about other records. And then he goes on to talk about specifically the participants and the records of participants, and then what a fortunate drawer is. I always thought that just meant the guy who got the land. I think that's actually what it does mean. And then he talks about what the record numbers are for those, and then what indexes exist. And then he talks about plats and maps, and then talks a little bit beyond the basics. My recommendation is that you Google Georgia Genealogical Society, their publications, and if you have an interest in Georgia land lottery research, this is the best book around for it. It is the best book, but I'm pretty sure it's almost the only book that is specific to the Georgia land lottery. Now, you might say, well, I don't have any Georgia people. That's never an excuse not to buy a book. So this is Craig. This has been Just Genealogy, where finally, in my own hot little hands, I have my own personal, my library copy of the Georgia Land Lottery Research by Paul Gaycram. A little bit about Paul, just to remind you that he is the instructor at SLIG for the Advanced Methodology course. I've worked with him for many years in the research consultation course, which I run at SLIG by myself now. But before the pandemic, I was running it with him, and I enjoy working with him. He's an easy guy to get along with, and he also knows how to write. Stay safe. See you tomorrow.